Hey everybody, Garcia here, and today I'm going to be comparing the new printing of Nemo's War, the Ultimate Edition, with this previous printing, which I had available to me, and this is Nemo's War 2nd Edition, that still came in this shaped box. I know at some point between this printing and this brand new printing, they did go to a square box that looks like this, but the components were the same as what's in here, okay? Now, before I jump into it, one thing I want to move out of the way is these 3 packs down here. These are expansions that were available before right now. There was a brand new expansion, Journey's End, that comes in here. But also in the Ultimate Box, you are going to have all 3 of these. Now, these were purchased separately, and they were in this box. But I went ahead and pulled them out so I could show them to you individually, and so that you know they don't come in here. So expansion number 1 here gave you more upgrades to the Nautilus. Expansion number 2 gave you 2 new motives that you could play when you are Nemo. A couple of new upgrades and then some tokens for one of these motives. And then expansion pack number 3 here gave you some new events, all right? All of these components that are cards anyway will have a number in the bottom corner here, having a 1, a 2, and a 3, so that you know where they came from. So, having said all that and getting that out of the way, again, those components are going to be in here, but we can set these aside for now and just jump into these games. I'll point out anything that's been modified, by the way, that I've either switched around or changed. So I'll make sure I point that out. So, starting with this one here, you are going to get a rule book in it, and you are going to get a second book that is just the epilogues for the stories. So this rule book will have really what you need, and then when you end a game, you would check out the epilogue. And if your motive was, let's say, explore, or let's say science, based on your score, how many victory points you got, you might read the inconsequential one. So it's a very, very large image, and then a little itty-bitty text right here. Very nice way to show off the artwork, but quite a waste of space on this one. And I'll show you where that is in the new one and how much space they saved doing that. So you've got that there, those 2 books. In the new one, we've got 2 books as well, but they are differently organized. So we are going to have, just put that right there. You're going to have this one called Game Rules, and you're going to have this one called Between Voyages Guide. You will need to jump back and forth between these a decent amount, but they do give you a good table of contents here. And if something is listed in the other one, they'll tell you that as well. Unfortunately, some of the things are a little bit spread out between them. Like, for example, introduction, also read the other one, it says. And this one says also read the operations manual. And then game equipment, I'll also check the other one for that stuff. Once you get going, I think once you know the game, this is going to be a good way to do it. Learning the game, you might feel a little lost jumping between these 2 books. All right. So there is those. Then below that, we've got the player board. They are basically identical except for the manufacturing of the player board. I think the new one has a better cut, and you are going to not have any creases on the board. This previous printing had one particularly egregious crease on the board, and that is because the way this one folds out, when you fold it out once, like that, you fold it out again, like this. This is going to be upside down, so I'll flip it over. Here we go. Like that, and then you fold these 2 out. They are individually cut, these 2 here. So you would end up with one particularly egregious crease right there, like I said. There's also a smaller crease here. It just happens to be somewhere inconsequential. So that is gone from the new printing. It's a small thing, but something I wanted to point out. It definitely jumped out at me when I first noticed that that was gone from the new one. So nicely done on the board. They look the same, but it feels like an improvement, this new board. And then we'll move the board out of the way and we get to some components down here. So these bags are not in the original game. I just provided some bags for the ships and for the treasures, so I can move that aside for now. These are included in here. So you have 1 bag for the treasures and 1 bag that has all of the ships you'll be contending with. So those are very nice bags. They work out well. They're nicely printed. They tell you what they do right on there. You know, treasure, ships, done. I like that. Okay, then we've got 2 big wells here for the cards. And over here we've got 2 wells for the cards that are unfortunately do have a finger hole right here on the side, and they go halfway down. It is terrible. So you'd always have to basically flip over this box and shake it. I did stick my motives below this to ideally be able to kind of, get in there, but it's still not very good. So just be aware of that. Now the cards in here, they're going to be the finale cards, the usual cards you get, like the Rising Tension, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, and then you have 51 adventures in here. In here you get all the expansion adventures, and then a bunch of new ones from Journey's End, that new expansion, all right? So let's go ahead and talk about the other things a little bit, and then we'll get to that final main new inclusion, that Journey's End expansion. So you're going to have here all of the various tokens. This is generally the same. They feel the same. They look the same. You have all the characters. The Nautilus piece is pretty much identical, as are the dice and everything else. And then you are going to have just slightly different storage ideas going on over here. Again, I think the new one is a big improvement over what they did over here, especially being able to store the cards sideways like this and being able to just grab the entire thing out. You could split the cards among these two if you do sleeve them. In this one, you didn't really have that opportunity. If you were to sleeve the ones in this edition, you just needed to get rid of this insert pretty much, or maybe stack the cards over here somehow. It got pretty tricky. There's a lot of wasted space under here as well because, well, for one thing, the Nautilus, as you can see, is just in a tiny little space. So basically this center brick there, right under that, is largely being wasted. And these card wells don't go all the way down to the bottom either. So not great utilization of the space. This new one's a lot better when it comes to that. It gives you spaces to organize the extra ships already out of the gate. And then a few new wells, including one right here that does have a little wasted space underneath, but it holds all of these very nicely. Now, I've gone ahead and separated in here just for the sake of simplicity some of the things that are new in the Journey's End expansion that simply have no relation or they have no equal in the older box here. So let's go ahead and crack that open and take a look at that. So we've got in here a new card here that has 2 new motives, and this is from Journey's End expansion, the 4th and apparently final expansion for the game. So you're going to get World Order here, and you are going to have this Piracy one. You have 2 ships here that are used for a brand new competitive mode in the game, with one side playing Imperialists and going after the main player. So these new ships are used for that. They are very nice little molds, simple but effective. You've got one new character, Nadine Dakar here, who is supposed to be Nemo's son. And he is an optional rule you can choose to put in the game. He's a new character. You will put a couple of new cards in the deck. He will show up. You will interact with him. And then he sticks around for the game. If he's still around at the very end of the game, you are going to get +1 for each of your surviving characters, just like him. But you have to keep him around, because if you ever lose him, that is a defeat. So you need to protect this character, make sure he is still around, or the game will end in a loss for you. He's got some tokens here that he'll earn. You'll randomly draw some of these and give him a special ability in the game. You're also going to have some tokens here used for these new motives. And you've got these, which are a nice optional rule, where at the beginning of the game, you give your officers on the Nautilus some of these tokens. The amount depends on the difficulty you pick, but you will randomize these and pull these out. Sometimes they are powers that stick around. Sometimes you can get rid of them. Say, for example, this one says Artisan. You can discard this for 1 salvage point. Very useful, very useful. And then this one is Rogue. Immediately discard and replace with 2 more attributes. Okay, these are the attributes. So again, some of your characters now will have a little more they can do based on these tokens right here. Very nice inclusion. Again, an optional idea, but it makes the game a little bit easier, and it kicks up the thematics a little bit as well. And then we'll go ahead and take a look at the cards, the other main new thing here in the game. By the way, if you are looking over here and you see that all my gems are the same color in this box, I've done that myself. These came multicolored, just like the previous printing. I just like them to all be uniform because the color differences are meaningless in this game, and I find it to be just one extra thing I don't need to think about. These are all treasures. They all mean the exact same thing. All right, so all of these cards then, we're going to have a big stack that is the typical 51 events that come in that printing. After that, we've got the expansion ones, again, numbered in the corner right here. In this case, there's a little tiny 3 right there. So those are all from that expansion I showed you at the beginning. We've got the Nautilus upgrades right here. Some new ones in there. And again, that ties to some of these new motives. And then we've got here Versus cards. These are for that mode that uses those ships. You're going to have a few of those. They look like the cooperative mode cards that you use in the game. So that's brand new to Journey's End. Then below that, we've got a very large stack of brand new events. And these are going to be that. That large stack there is brand new events. As you can see, it just about doubles the amount of adventures included in the original printing here. And then below that, we've got the piracy card, the World Order card for the Nautilus. So that's there. New finales, several new finales here. 4 new ones there. And then we've got these cards that you are going to utilize if you use the optional character of Nadine. You shuffle up one of these first event that deals with him, somewhere in the deck where it tells you, 1 out of these 3, and then 1 out of these 3 for a later event. And they inject a little story, a little bit about Nemo dealing with his son, talking to his son, how he treats him, how, what role the son takes aboard the Nautilus. Nice, small addition, just kicks up the flavor a little bit in the game. So the main attraction here, I would say, is, of course, 2 new motives in Journey's End, and then all of these new adventures, which are going to give you a ton of replayability. Then other things around that, modular, or optional, I should say, abilities and ideas you can choose to institute in your game, and then, of course, the Versus mode, which is very much one of those things where you might have interest in, you might have been waiting to finally play this against someone else, it might not be to your liking. Whether you enjoy adding some of these things or not, undeniably, all of these extra adventures are going to be a big refresher for the replayability of the game. So there you go. That is generally all the new things. I don't think I'm missing anything that I haven't talked about. This comes from one of the original expansions, ship tokens and whatnot. Everything else is basically the same between these two. So I hope that gives you an idea of what you'd get in this printing of the game, 2nd edition with this shaped box, and what you get in this new Ultimate Edition for the game. There you go, everybody. That is Nemo's War, a little head-to-head comparison for you. Thanks very much for checking this out with me. I'm going to see you on the next one.